Hey folks, today we're going to move this project along and add hardscape. That's rock and wood. It's all coming up right after this. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec. So I've spent probably the last year or so slowly collecting a lot of the Cero stone that you see in here. Cero stone's a really interesting but dense rock. It's much more expensive than dragonstone and a lot of other rocks like that. Sure, just because it's always sold by weight and it weighs so much more dense than dragonstone. That being said, I've always wanted to use it. I've never really had an opportunity to use it before in an aquascape, and I was really excited to get to use it in here. I played a whole lot in my dojo or sandbox, whatever you want to call it, and in the garage. And I had a lot of fun kind of just experimenting with different ways to kind of integrate the rock and wood together. And I did experiment with doing like all rocks and all wood and different things, but I really like the way it's layered in together, especially if you add plants in there too. I wanted to come out here in the garage and kind of work on my hardscape for this new project. And what I have here, this is kind of an interesting, kind of a neat thing to have. And this is the lid. So this and its sister, which I did rip the front of it off, is right here. And these are the lids that came on that aquarium. So what's cool about that is I kind of have the exact dimensions that I need to work within, maybe go a little bit further in. And I'll have the exact dimensions that I want to work with. And I've got a nice little sandbox here that I can mess with. Now this will be great. I could actually put sand in here to kind of simulate the soft part of the hardscape, or the soil or whatever I use in the bottom, and kind of get things to stick, kind of lean and do what I want them to do. It's fun to have a sandbox to work with. It helps you keep in the constraints that you need to work within so that your aquascape ends up looking the way it should. So for this part of the build, I went around and I gathered wood from around the house, from local stores, and I shopped online for a little bit too. One thing I talked about in my last video is I ordered some sticks from bonsaitree.com or something, I can't remember, bonsaidriftwood.com. This was a pretty big investment at $40, and as you can see, it's a small, light little box. And I'm going to go ahead and unbox it. So right here, we've got some stuff about driftwood. There's some advice they want you to know about driftwood. Then we got the actual wood itself. This package was about $40. This is as far as I got on my own. I actually wrapped this back up because I wanted to show you guys. Let's kind of react to it together. So the way they sold this was like, for $40, you got 40 little bundles of wood, supposedly. Not bundles, but like sticks, I guess. At least 40 sticks of wood. Unfortunately, these are super tiny. Like, these will be great for detail. But to me, a handful of twigs like this should cost, I would say, no more than $15, not $40. That's basically $1. It's $1 for a twig like this. Would you pay $1 for that? Would you pay $40 for 40 of them? Now, some of them are different thicknesses, and these thicker ones and stuff, probably would be good, but I'm seeing like maybe 2, maybe 3 of these roots. Not really much at all. And really, in my opinion, a bad value. I'm going to use this anyway. I'm not sending it back or anything like that. I'm going to use it anyway, but I can't advise like at the price. This just seems unreasonable. Online, there was no scale to it, so online I was thinking they probably did list the inches of it or something like that at some point, but I didn't see that. All I saw were these huge beautiful things that they'd done with it, and I wanted to do it too. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm sort of pissed at myself for buying that. So here's a quick comparison. Here's $40 at my local fish store. This is a piece of wood called, what do they call this? I've used it before. Yeah, they call this tiger wood. Very spindly, very interesting wood, and I'll be able to take this apart and kind of do what I was talking about with this. This was also $40. So, you know, there's a comparison of what, you know, you can have. All right. I'll stop ragging on the sticks. I'm a little disappointed. So put that over there. This is spider wood, and I picked this up at a local store. So while we were in Chattanooga over Christmas break, I went by a fish store called the Bermuda Triangle. If you've been watching my channel, you know Chattanooga got hit with a huge twister through the summer. A big tornado ripped through there and almost ripped my wife's mother's home apart. She was like very, very lucky. Like everything around her was destroyed. But that store got hit really bad, and they've rebuilt and they've reopened. And I decided to make a little contribution. I bought this, and I think a heater there also. But this will be something I can add in. You see, it's very similar to this other wood. Less of these fine roots, but big thick roots. And this is spiderwood's actually azalea. An azalea root. I've got a couple of these bigger pieces here. This is all stuff I bought still. This was about $25, which I thought was kind of crazy, but I got it anyway. This was $14. This is $5.49. This is something called Black Forest driftwood. It looks like Malaysian driftwood, like old used Malaysian driftwood to me, but it's all sold as Black Forest. We got these two size pieces, and they actually sell this one in little tiny pieces. So I've got a lot of really interesting little tiny ones. They're about $3.50 a piece. So I've also got a bunch of stuff from the house too. I'll just push all this up. Now for my local stash, what I have here on the rack, I've got some really cool old pieces of spider wood, a lot of character in this one too. So it's got a bunch of algae and oh gosh, what was this? Christmas moss, Java moss and stuff still on the back of it. I probably need to clean this up a little bit, but really interesting piece here. This I believe was either Malaysian driftwood or spider wood. I'm not sure. It's obviously really thick. It's probably Malaysian driftwood, but it's a very old piece that hasn't seen the aquarium for a while. You see, it's very smooth. This was probably in my aquarium for years and years before I finally put it on the shelf after breaking the tank down. And that's the same story with a lot of these pieces too. I've got a lot of these kind of random Malaysian driftwood pieces. I stopped using Malaysian driftwood so much because it would it deteriorates really fast underwater, and it kind of fills up. It'll plug up your filters. Right here we have some spindly wood. I think this came out of the 210 one time when I was cleaning it up in there. Now this is manzanita wood, but you know, I think all these woods, once you bond them together, they kind of blend into one. I got some miscellaneous little pieces here and there. I think most of this is spider wood remnants. I don't throw anything away when I break down an aquarium. See, this had like a really lot of algae growth on the back of it, but I just kind of kept it. But probably the first step will be to kind of clean all this off and just start kind of experimenting with how it's going to go together. Very few times have I planned an aquascape outside of the aquarium. And just while I had the opportunity with this box, it just happens to be the shape of my tank, I thought, you know, and leaving room for some leeway because it's going to look different even no matter how precise I am here. I was wondering if I could make something here and then bring it into there. This aquascape more than likely won't be on sand. It's going to be just, it'll be on like a soil substrate, like a dark substrate. But I do want it to put a little sand there just to kind of have something to kind of simulate the shape of the substrate. So I'm going to make a sandbox here. I'm not even going to cover it all. I'm just going to give myself a little bit something to work with here. It's oddly satisfying. Put it all in there. Only had about half a bag of it left. So my approach with this aquascape was really to be kind of a little bit more directional than usual. So I've got a lot of energy kind of going from the back corner of the tank over to this corner of the tank. So I want there to be a really strong impression of things kind of leaning this way, like the flow of water is going this direction. I had a lot of fun shopping for wood for this. I actually went all over town buying different pieces of spider wood, and the wood that's in here, although right now some of it looks a lot lighter than other parts of it, once it's all waterlogged, it's going to look very similar to one another. Some of these pieces of wood are actually quite old. Most of this is spider wood, which is basically, they're roots from a type of azalea, and they've got a nice thick spindly kind of look to them. I love having the little vines kind of coming out and spreading apart. What's neat too is I love to make little canopies of plants underneath and just have those things kind of reaching out of it. I think it looks really neat. So far the sand on top has been really nice. Like, it was really handy with rock placement. It probably would have been really similar just on the soil too, but the sand does seem to hold it maybe a little bit better than just soil alone. The whole thing kind of came together pretty quick. I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do, and it was just a matter of kind of implementing it. It's always interesting too, because you've got to think ahead to where you're going to put the plants. I had a couple of plants in particular that I wanted to migrate from other tanks to here, so I'm already kind of in my head planning where those are going to go, and I left myself some empty spaces. The substrate's kind of tilted up at an angle too. That really helped me complete that motion thing. I guess all that's really left now to do is to plant it. I've got about 5 buckets of plants and a couple of bags besides. I've got tons and tons of plants. It's going to take a long time to get them all in there. Big huge thank you to my Patreons. I really appreciate your support. This video will be an early release on my Patreon page, as was the last video. Anytime I can shoot some things in advance, I'm gonna put them up early on there as often as I can. And a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in. Be sure to give it a comment and a thumbs up on the way out and help me out with that algorithm a little bit. Until we meet again, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.